I do want to touch on an issue that is I cannot get over every morning when I turn on the TV. Crime is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. Yeah. I know, Michael, you live in D.C. This is something that what is blowing my mind. I lived in D.C. in the mid-'90s through Marion Barry. Yep. Crime was a big problem then. I always not joke with people, but it's a true story. I woke up one Saturday morning, my car was gone. And when we called the police, the guy literally, I won't say his last name, but the officer said, "Oh, it's got to be Kevin."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I'm sorry, Kevin?" And he goes, "Yeah, Kevin." And I still know the guy's name in my head, but I won't say it. And he said, "Yeah, he steals cars." And I was like, "Oh, could I get mine back?"
Hey, Kevin, can I have my car back?
Right. No, well, so here's the funny story, and then I'll end with this. I said, well, he couldn't have gone far because there's no gas in it. They did find the car 7 blocks away at a 7-Eleven in Northeast DC, but he had filled the car up, so I got a free tank of gas. The downside is he threw my mixtapes out. All my mixtapes got thrown out. My roommates were actually very excited about that because let's just say
weren't on loop.
My mixtapes were not exactly cool,
palatable,
as I think the word they used, hip, enjoyable. So my roommates were actually excited that Kevin, not using his last name, had stolen my car. But there were literally the cops knew his name, knew what he did. And I feel like we're back in that era now. The difference is Kevin was a grown man and apparently, according to the officers, stole cars for his drug habit. The kids now, Michael, are these young kids. And I listen to the news, do these interviews with parents or whatever, and they're like, there are no consequences. And these kids face, literally one of the parents of the victim said the problem is these kids know that they're not going to face any jail time, any serious penalty. And so what is the answer here? Because you have DC, it's your party 100% controls it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to say, I don't really know what the answer is here because you're right. You're seeing juveniles commit crimes at such high rates, and they're getting younger and younger. We saw here in DC a shooting and a carjacking, a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old. I grew up here. So I'm a Washingtonian. I grew up here in the 90s and the 80s when it was really bad, when it was the murder capital.
Kevin?
He's my next door neighbor. You didn't know? Me and him went to high school together.
Hope your car's okay. I doubt Kevin.
Yeah, right? But it's sad because you're watching the city kind of go back. But crack isn't here, and so at least you could understand why in the 80s and the 90s it was based off crack. Now you can't. Right. You don't see the same kind of thing because the city looks like it's flourishing. When you drive around DC, it's luxury condos everywhere. But you can go from one block where it's luxury condos to one block and it is row houses that are abandoned. And they've learned it doesn't make sense to rob your neighbors who also have nothing in Anacostia. And they're coming across to the more upscale neighborhoods. And so we're seeing this all over the country. This isn't exclusive to DC.
It's exclusive to liberal cities.
But
crime's actually down in liberal cities, in cities all across America.
That is not accurate. I mean, it's not. It's just simply you're analyzing data in a way that is completely and utterly a manipulation of data, because every major city right now is completely destroyed. And the answer is actually very simple. Let's get out the George Soros elected district attorney. Yep. Let's prosecute crime. Let's fund the police. Let's allow those police to hit the streets and arrest these people. Let's make loitering and homelessness like more of a crime if they're, in certain areas.
I was a public defender. I was a public defender in Manhattan, and New York can't arrest its way into fixing crime.
It worked a few years ago.
Yes, they can.
But they can't. I had clients who had 45 misdemeanors, and it was loitering, it was stealing from CVS, and them arresting them, continuing to arrest them, wasn't solving the problem. It was
right, because they need to throw them in. No, they need to throw them in jail for longer.
Michael, I guess my question is, so you're the guy on the front line. Do you see this over and over and over again, right? Yeah. So what is the deterrence model? If I know that I can literally steal forever, why get a job? I mean, for a while, it was like Bill Clinton wanted midnight basketball and it gives people something other to do. I've been making the case that if you know that crime pays, I steal a car, I get $500. Tell me another job that's going to give me $500. Not going to happen. So crime now pays. What is the answer that stops that?
So I think I already gave it.
I would reject the notion that crime pays. I mean, the people who are committing these crimes, it's not like they're living these lavish lifestyles. Like I know it's different when you're talking about drugs and things like fentanyl like that, because the selling rate is higher. But people who are just carjacking, who are robbing CVS, these like petty crimes, they're not living high lifestyles. So we've got
it's not about a high lifestyle, but they're doing that it's not like if you went to one of those people and said, okay, I've got a job, it pays $20 an hour. We'll move you into that. It's not a question of living this life of luxury. They're choosing to do that instead of working.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. I think there is a lot of issues with people in wanting to work versus seeing they can go out and rob and steal. But I think to get to the essence of what you were talking about, the violence we're seeing in cities in terms of like murder and violent crime, it's scary. People like me are looking to move out of the city. I'm from here. And so
they're going to bring their politics with them and ruin our conservative cities.
Yep.
I'm taking crazy pills, as they say in Zoolander.
Because to Erin's point, I think it's naive to say that we don't know what's causing this. We see what's causing this. They are decriminalizing petty theft. You can go into a CVS and steal up into a certain amount and you won't get charged. You can go to a drug den, an outdoor drug den where you can use drugs on the street as long as you're within a certain area. I mean, we are decriminalizing things that used to be criminal that they would throw you in jail for. And to Michael's point about, people having a long rap sheet, well, maybe they didn't stay in jail long enough to actually serve the time for the crime that they committed, because we're seeing in places like New York and all of these other liberal-run cities, these Soros DAs, to Erin's point, who are going in there and the police might arrest them, but then they're dropping the charges. I mean, we saw people in the summer of love of 2020 burn buildings down and they got arrested, but their charges were dropped. So they saw no real consequences. If we are finally serious about cleaning these cities up, the liberals need to drop the DAs. They need to get people in there who will actually not only enforce the laws, but enforce the consequences as well. And that is when you will see change. And Michael, please, for the love of God, if you move to a conservative area, a suburb, do not vote for these same policies.
The lucky thing is,
I don't understand.
Just so we're clear, though, in Michael's advantage, whether it's moving a little out to the north to Maryland or south here in Virginia, we're all controlled by the Dems anyway. So he's
got no choices.
He's got no choice.
Don't come to Florida. Right. We don't want you. God bless.
I'm coming. St. Pete. Just wait.
Dude, I'll tell you this. He's not going to DeSantis world.
No.
The one thing that's interesting, by the way,
Palm Beach County,
is that Sara said, in DC, they're actually even closing the CVSs for exactly the reason. So I think it's policy choices. It's the DAs. It's the councils to make. I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things, but I've appreciated the discussion, folks. Thank you for everything. It's been a great Thursday. I always love these panel discussions.